guys, what's going on? Megan here. Getting off of work and school. Just took my exam. Happy to go. Anyway, guys, this video is long overdue, man. You guys know me. I didn't grow up with my pops, and I didn't have a good relationship with my mother, right? So, and I was separated from my big brother. So pretty much, I kind of had to, all the shit I learned about life and things like that, I learned through fucking cartoons, right? And I know a lot of you guys share that same fate, that same past, where you learn more from cartoons and video games and fucking mangas and shit than you did from your parents or, I don't know, your family, right? So I'm not taking anything away from my parents. It's just I learned most of my virtues in life and most of my life lessons from good old mangas, good old cartoons, fucking from Dragon Ball Z to Disney, whatever the fuck I was watching at the time, right? And I also learned a lot of my life lessons, I believe it or not, I learned from video games. A lot of fucking video games. Because, you know, you're a lonely kid. That's all you fucking do, stay home and play video games, right? Or go to my friend's house when I didn't have the games that I wanted to play. So, one of my favorite games growing up was Pokemon, right? On the fucking Game Boy. You guys remember the big-ass Game Boy? This shit looked like a Pokédex. And, you know, red and blue, then gold and yellow, ruby and sapphire, all that shit. I played them all. I used to love Pokemon, right? Another game I learned a lot from was Zelda Ocarina of Time, which I still think is the best game ever made. And also God of War, but then that's a whole separate video. I'm gonna make separate videos showing you guys everything that I've learned from my top video games, right? But let's start with Pokemon, right? Let's be a kid for today. We all kids. I love it. I love bringing my inner boy out, right? And the channel allows me to do this. So, I learned 5 key lessons from Pokemon, right? Who didn't? Number 1 lesson was, get out of your comfort zone if you want to grow, right? This is where things get a little more serious. You guys know I'm always preaching Team 3D, dominance, discipline, direction, you know, becoming a better you every single day, endless growth, right? And one thing that Pokemon taught me, believe it or not, was get out of your comfort zone if you want to grow. It's so simple, right? What do I mean by that? What happens when you start playing? You leveling up and shit, right? You growing in Pallet Town, whatever the first town was. And if you stay there too long, eventually what happens, right? You level 5, so every challenge at first is hard, so you're leveling up faster. But then as you stay there, oh shit. Apologize for that, guys. Police is everywhere, and it kind of sharks out here. Anyway, so yeah, if you stay in Pallet Town too long, what happens? You realize that you stop leveling up as fast as you used to, right? You guys remember that very first battle you fight? You level up. You used to love that shit, right? And then when you keep fighting, you get less and less experience, right? Less and less experience points. And you're like, man, what the fuck? I'm not growing. But then you gotta get out of that first ass grass, right? I used to call it, my friends used to call it that first ass grass, right? That's the very first patch of grass where you fight the Pidgeotos and the Rattatas, all that shit. When you get out of that and you go into deeper grass, you know, as you progress, now the battles get tougher and tougher, and you get bigger and bigger and bigger. But when you stay in your comfort zone, which was Pallet Town, you stop growing, right? Because the fight was so fucking easy. It's kind of like bodybuilding, progressive overload, right? You got to go into deeper territories. So that's the one thing I learned from, that's the very first lesson that I took away from Pokemon was, if you want to grow in anything in life, you got to get out of your comfort zone, whether it's bodybuilding, where you got to do more reps or more volume or lift more weight, or whether it's just learning where you got to read tougher and tougher books. When I was learning English, I had to go from reading the fucking baby books and shit to reading tougher and tougher books, and that pushed me to learn English to the point where now I'm an immigrant. I had to learn English when I came here, but now I'm an English tutor, you know, at my college. So that didn't happen from if I was still over there reading those easy ass books that you learn when you're trying to learn a language, I wasn't gonna grow as fast. You know what I'm saying? That's a pretty badass Camaro, guys. Look at that over there. So yeah, so that applies to anything, whether it's business, bodybuilding, you name it. You just gotta get out of your comfort zone. That's where you meet tougher and tougher opponents. So anyway, and that leads me to lesson number 2. Lesson number 2 that I learned from Pokemon was, the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward, right? What happens, we all know, you get to a point where you deep in the game and then you gotta fight this tough ass Pokemon, man. It's like, it's either in a cave or it's usually like for example, Pokemon Red and Blue, it was the Mewtwo cave, right? Where every Pokemon is like level 50 and you're like, fuck, man. So your first reaction is, man, let me get away from that fight. But then you realize when you do win that fight, the bigger the reward, right? So the bigger the risk, because those Pokemon will knock you the fuck out, right? So that's the, man, I love the sound Camaros, man. He's shitting on us right now. It's cool though. It's cool. I got my full focus. It's cool. Anyway, so yeah, you scared. It's a bigger risk because you know that you could lose any moment, and then those Pokemon could take out your entire party. Meaning you got to go back to the beginning and shit like that, get your Pokemon healed up. So it's a bigger risk, but at the same time, it's a bigger reward because number one, you know, if you beat that enemy, you're gonna level up a ton, and number two, you might even catch the motherfucker, right? So the second thing Pokemon told me was the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. That applies to finance. Nobody became a billionaire except through inheritance. Nobody becomes a billionaire or millionaire without taking risks, right? The bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. When you're investing in a company or in a stock or whatever, and later on you get like, I don't know, 2 times the return, that's because you took a big ass risk. You could have lost that shit, right? When Michael Jordan became famous because of that basketball shot he made back in university on that team, he took a bigger risk, right? If he would have missed that shot at the buzzer, they would have said, oh, he's the guy who made his team lose. You know what I'm saying? Because it was a very big championship game. So the risk was big, but the reward for taking that risk was also greater. When he made that shot, nobody cared about the other fuckers who scored points during that game. Nobody cared about the ones who had the assists and all that shit. On the newspaper, all you saw was Jordan, 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 and then that catapulted him in his career. So yeah, you know, there's no reward without risk, guys. And once again, the bigger the risk, the bigger the reward. Alright, third thing I learned from fucking Pokemon, and you also apply that to bodybuilding, right? You want to get bigger, progressive overload. You gotta lift heavier weights, man. You gotta squat more, bench press more, deadlift more, right? And then what's the reward? You bigger, you stronger, you know, you're getting all the ladies and shit like that. We've all been there, guys. You would never would have got, you know, all those rewards if you didn't take the risk to step into the gym and put your body in danger. And every time you go into the gym, you're putting your body in danger. You know what I'm saying? You're sacrificing something, but yeah, you get a bigger reward. You go to the gym and you do bitch ass treadmill cardio, you're gonna get bitch ass results, right? Low risk, low return. That's basic finance, basic economics. So anyway, third thing I learned from Pokemon was let's see. Everything. I'm a lot of things. I'm trying to narrow it down to 5. Your location. Your location decides everything. And that's the third thing I learned from Pokemon. Your location decides your value. And I talk about it a lot, right? If you take Michael Phelps, he's one of the greatest swimmers of all time, right? He won all these records. You take him out of the water and you put him, I don't know, on the golf courses or, you know, some shit. He's a nobody, right? You're gonna be like, man, like this guy's is a gold medalist, but that's because you took him out of his location. You took him out of the soil that makes him grow, right? I always talk about the seed. You take the seed out of the soil, it just sits there on your table looking stupid, but you put it into the right soil, the right climate, the right location, it could become a giant ass oak tree, which can in turn, you know, yield food and more seeds and become another tree. And next thing you know, a seed can become an entire forest. A tiny seed can become an entire forest if you put it in the right location. Same thing with back to Jordan. You take Jordan out. I love basketball, so I'm always gonna talk about basketball. You take Jordan out of the basketball court, you put him in baseball, which is what he tried. Look what happened. He was almost a nobody. So your location decides everything. So Pokemon taught me that through the different types, right? Say you were a fire type Pokemon, right? You a guy who like fire types, and then you go into this cave that's full of rock and ground Pokemon. What happens? You got that ass whoop, right? Rock is super effective against fire. Ground is super effective against fire. I forgot the rest. Water, right? When you have your Charizard, your fire starter, and you learn surf, you had to go into the water and shit. You know you got your ass whooped by those fucking Gyarados and shit like that. So you gotta know the location that brings out the best in you. In the same way, if you were a fire starter and then you went into a place that had a lot of bug type Pokemon, a lot of grass type Pokemon, you were kicking ass, right? And that taught me a lot of things about life, because that's how life is, right? If you're good at something, go into that field and you're gonna dominate. Don't try to go win in somebody else's territory. If that's not your throne, don't sit on it, my nigga. You feel me? So your location decides your worth. Your location decides your value. And Pokemon taught me that, believe it or not, right? I realized, man, if you fire, don't try to fight a water type. If you electric type, don't try to fight I don't know what the fuck, I forgot the type matchups and shit, but you get the fucking point. So that's one thing he taught me. Third, that was number 3. Yeah, number 3. Number 4. Fourth thing Pokemon taught me was preparing for the fucking future. See, when we young, we like to say, oh, YOLO, live for today, fuck tomorrow, all that shit. It sounds pretty philosophical when you're young, but it's philosophical stupid when you get older, because you realize all the decisions you made in the past come back to haunt you. You gotta live for tomorrow as well. You gotta have fun today. Don't get me wrong. you know, party, have fun, all that shit, but you gotta plan for tomorrow. And how did I learn that in Pokemon? What happens, do you buy potions after you get knocked out or before you faint? You buy that shit before. It's pretty simple, right? If you're about to go into the Elite Four, you stack up on potions and antidotes and all that shit, because even though you're not poisoned yet, your health is fully recovered, you're not doing it for today, you're doing it for tomorrow, you're doing it for the future. In the same way, when I meet somebody, I ask them, yo, what are you doing to prepare for tomorrow? What do you see yourself in the next 5 years? Are you putting money in your savings account? Are you doing this? They're like, nah, I only live for today. But yeah, when they play Pokemon, right, they go in, you know, or they play video games, they go and buy potions before the fight. They buy antidotes before they get poisoned. So we smarter when we play video games than when we live life. You know what I mean? So remember, plan for your future, right? Don't take everything away from today. You also gotta enjoy your life, but at the same time, prepare for tomorrow. And Pokemon taught me that. You know, simply, for example, when I knew I had to go through a patch of grass that had a lot of grass, I would buy Repel in advance, because I knew every single 3 seconds I would hear wham, 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 dun, 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 dun. Remember? All right. Last thing Pokemon taught me, guys, was you gotta hedge against your weaknesses, right? If you have a weakness, find a way to hedge against that shit. If you know you're not good at A, try to become good at B. Or if you know that your biggest weakness is C, try to make your strength so good that your weakness disappear. Or try to have something to leverage your weakness. How did Pokemon teach me that? Fairly simple. When you were, say you are fire type, right? You're a fire type Pokemon. You know that you get your ass whooped if you go against a water type, right? So what would you do? You would teach your Pokemon some moves that will allow her to beat water types, right? I know I use fire as a dumb example, because I don't think fire types had anything they could learn. But let me give you an example. For example, say you water type, and you know you have like water type. Let's say you have Blastoise, and you know that Blastoise is weak against electric type, right? What would you do? You would teach your Blastoise at least an earth move, right? Because you know that something like earthquake, because you know electric types are weak to earth. So you would do things, you would teach your Pokemon moves so that, yes, he has water moves to benefit off his advantage, but at the same time, he has something to protect against his weakness. This way, when you're down to that last Pokemon in your party, and you're going up against the other type that push you at a disadvantage, you have something to balance that up, right? And believe it or not, everything I'm telling you guys now, if you play Pokemon, you know exactly what I'm talking about. I learned that shit from a fucking video game. So you could deduct wisdom out of everything in life. That's why I tell people, don't knock down video games, man. If you're doing it too much, then yeah, that's a problem. But there's a lot of things you can learn from that shit. All right, guys. Anyway, this video's too long. Just got home from work, about to pick up my little brother. Today's Monday sushi night, about to tear it up. Stay tuned. I'm gonna post some pictures on Instagram maybe. But dominance, discipline, direction, guys. Dominate. Wish you guys the best. Yo, come on, son. Anyway, so I was like, yo, Hansa, let's make a video and show them how we came up with these insiders. And we spent like the last 10 minutes laughing. The first one is you have to chill.